Hello, hello, hello. Check 1, 2 for audio and a wave for video. It looks like we are in record. Hello, hello, hello. Mike Black here. Who the heck is Mike Black and why are you watching this? I'm one of the humans who attended the guitar craft courses that Robert Fripp began in 1985 and continue on to this day. So why am I here talking about guitar craft? Well, right now the world is going through a global pandemic. I'm a science teacher, and without getting into that stuff, the world is dealing with a very unique natural experiment right now, and we're all dealing with it in our different ways. I hope you are all dealing with it well. Because of this, a lot of people are going on social media and doing what I'm doing now. They're doing video recording, vlogging, blogging, presentations, and a lot of these are very popular, and they're very good. And one of them is Robert Fripp and Toya on YouTube since this began. And wonderful, wonderful, insightful videos showing you Robert Fripp. I think one of them, Robert Fripp and spouse Toya Wilcox, are dancing in tutus with unicorn or horse heads on in the garden of their home. And it's just wonderful. Lately they've been doing covers. Robert playing Black Sabbath is just awesome, and Toya has been doing some covers. Toya is an international superstar around the world, and Robert is a guitarist in King Crimson. That's where they stand, and I think Robert would agree with that description. Anyway, lots of stuff going on in the world here. So getting back to guitar craft, there's a course that was supposed to be going on, I think, just about now, which sadly has been moved. It seems like everything is being shifted 1 year that way. So hopefully everything that was supposed to happen in 2020 will happen in 2021. I hope that is we'll talk about what a guitar craft course is. What I do know, what I absolutely know about that guitar craft course, and I will tell this to all the people who are attending, and I will tell this to all the people who are instructing. And the one person who knows about this more than anyone is Robert Fripp. First, let me say this. If you have a chance, if you have a chance to go on a guitar craft course, I'm quoting Steve Ball right now, who announced this at the end of a course where we did not have Robert, which was a very successful course. There can be guitar craft courses without Robert, no problem. Steve Ball at the end of a course said, and I can remember this exactly as he said it, he said, if you ever get the opportunity to spend a week with Robert Fripp on one of these courses, that's an opportunity you probably want to be there. And he was talking from the heart. He wasn't selling this at all. He was this was a moment, and he meant it, and it really stopped the room. And we get emotional during these moments. So already, that's another reason. Guitar craft was a lot of things, but what it really was, again, I'm a science teacher. So a natural experiment is an experiment that is not planned, and like all experiments, no one knows the outcome. Oh, that's where I was going with that. Sorry, to go full course. What is going to go on that course? No one knows, including me, and I've been on a dozen of them. That course will be what that course will be, and it will be awesome and terrible and boring, and I'm already prattling on about that. Long story short, if you get a chance to go on a guitar craft course, go on a guitar craft course. You will not regret it. My life is very different because of those guitar craft courses. Disclaimer, I have nothing to do with guitar craft. The structure, the people who are at the upper, it's not echelons. These are just people with much more experience. These are the people who you want to go to because they know. Um, I'm not one of those people. I'm just one of those people who was lucky enough to be on some of these early courses, and I was becoming a science teacher at the time. So my life as a science teacher is to be is to demystify. The demystification of difficult science concepts is what I do for a living. The other thing I do for a living is talk in front of a microphone. I've been a real radio DJ. Where am I going with that? I'm kind of sort of qualified to talk about this stuff from the standpoint of a person who had no idea. The early courses, I know I'm wandering already. The early courses were mostly attended by people who already knew about courses being given at Claymont Court Mansion in West Virginia, which was then the governing body was the American Society for Continuous Education. I'm doing this all from memory. I believe that it was that, which gave a lot of amazing courses that our beginning courses lasted 10 days. They had courses that lasted 10 months. I mean, we are talking intensive study. And these courses, if I could call it in a sentence, would be called something like guided self-examination. There's not a lot of getting back to the disclaimer. So I don't speak for Guitarcraft. I don't speak for Robert Fripp. I speak for me. And Robert's really keen on that, saying that at courses. He does not talk about, I think I've heard him say the word Bennett once at a course, and Gurdjieff, I don't know. So all of you people who are waiting for that part of it, it's not going to happen. He may have spoken about that at some courses, not on the ones I attended. So that's why, to go full circle, you're listening to this bespeckled, bearded guy to complete the King Crimson template for the fan. I think Robert once mentioned the bespeckled, bearded guys from New Jersey. Well, here I am. I don't think I'm the original guy, but later on I'll talk about the whole fan warship thing with Robert and what a horrific thing that is that he has had to suffer for 50 years now. That's the other thing. This opportunity. Robert's still around 50 years after this jigsaw puzzle piece. That first album, I would describe that first album really quick as a jigsaw puzzle piece which does not fit into the jigsaw puzzle that is rock and roll. That album was really one of those revolutionary albums, and without getting into the whole blowing smoke thing, Robert really is one of those revolutionary guitarists who changed a lot in music, and mostly not for the reasons that people think. We'll get into this later. Robert is one of those peoples in science. There's pure and applied science. Robert is one of the very few people that explored music at the pure research level. Pure research means I'm just going to research this, not knowing what the outcome is. Demystification, deconstruction. That's the other reason I'm on this video right now. A lot has been talked about and written about Guitarcraft, and so much of it is so dead wrong. I mean, it is just, it's not a bunch of Moonies. It's a bunch of guys like me. Oh God, not that bad. But these are we'll get into the people who attend that later. So we have Guitar Craft going on, which began in 1985 and continues in 2020, which is just mind-numbingly blowing. Especially when Robert used to talk about things like, oh, by the way, in 15 years, something will be. He loves to talk in these time scales that usually people like scientists are talking about. To him, 50 years is like, oh yeah, I'm wandering already. I have a few notes here. That's what I'm looking down at. The last reason I love to talk, I was a radio DJ, a music writer, a music critic, a Getty Images contributing photographer with concert photography that has been included in several King Crimson releases. Oh, big deal. Oh, fame and fortune await me. I'm not bragging. I'm just letting you know who I am. And I attended these courses, and they really did change my life. And again, not for the reasons that people think. Guitar Craft is a lot about learning how to slow down, relax, stop, take a look around you, perhaps be sensitive to the needs of the moment now that you're relaxed, and how to approach guitar and life in a way that most people, the guitar lessons and books and videos and instructions and the magazines range from passable to teaching you exactly what not to do with guitar. Other things I have to talk about before we talk about Guitar Craft. The Guitar Craft courses I attended began in 1986. So let's talk about 1985 and 1986 because that needs addressing, because we need to set the what was the time like. We're here in 2020 land where our iThingies were all globally, instantly, picoseconds apart from each other globally. And as a science teacher, I know that's really, really weird. That's terra incognita. This is new stuff. In 1985, there was, I have a couple of notes here just glancing at. Cell phones, no one attended. They might have existed. They did. But no one had them. The internet existed, but there was no internet access. All of the communication early on at the Guitar Craft courses was done by what is now called snail mail, envelopes with letters inside, and occasional phone calls, and that was it. So I wanted to set the tone of that. And also that, again, social media didn't exist. So the dissemination of information, that's another thing, was done, it went like this. And I have it around here somewhere. Wow, it's been in front of me for, there it is right there, this whole time. And now, of course, I can't find it. How did Guitar Craft present itself to most people? Those early courses, a lot of the people, Robert started giving courses at Claymont Court in West Virginia sometime in 1985. Most of those attendees, I believe, were people who had been attending the other myriad courses, not about music, at the place. Claymont Court, Claymont Mansion is just one part of this complex, this wonderful place in Charlestown, West Virginia. I believe it's 400 acres. General Bushrod, Washington, wandering already. We'll talk about the setting of that place, but that is important because this place was, this was rural. We are talking serious. This is not the middle of nowhere. This is the outer edge of one of the rings of the outer moons of nowhere. And the shock for some of the people coming from cities was like, wow. Do you hear that? Nothing. That's a whole other hour on this whole silence and quiet thing. So I'm just trying to set the table and the setting of what it was like to attend a course in 1985 or 1986, or the early courses of guitarcraft. Wonderful. So let's talk before that. How did people like me discover guitarcraft? The regular guy from New Jersey. Well, the courses started going on, and the press. Again, this is not internet. These are newspaper articles. Started showing up that Robert Fripp was giving guitar lessons. That's what you would call it. And wow, okay, really? That sounds interesting. That's weird. So I remember being in a music store in Belmar, New Jersey. Oh God, the name escapes me right now. And I remember reaching up and seeing a bunch of used guitar player magazines. And this was one of them. This is the, let's get that out of the glare. This is the January 1986 issue of Guitar Player magazine. And as you can see, the cover story, and man, on there, as it says right there, over there, Robert Fripp. And Robert looks like he hasn't slept in a month, which is probably about right, knowing his schedule. And he's probably saying, oh, I'm doing the best I can, having not slept in a month. Anyway, there he is, and there's even a flexi disc inside. Why was this important? And this was important. Again, I was in radio and television, and a bunch of other, not television, but I was in radio and music a lot at the time. So what about Guitar Player? This was important. In the 1980s, again, before the internet, magazines, wow, and guitar were, for guys my age back then in their 20s and 30s and teens, magazines were a big thing. Meaning, Guitar Player magazine was a magazine that was read by a lot of people, not just musicians at all. Guitar Player was one of those magazines that had a large circulation just by itself. And but there was another aspect about that magazine that people in journalism know about, that I know about. It's called Pass Around. Back in the 80s, some magazines like National Lampoon, Playboy, Penthouse, all the porn, and things like surfing, skateboard magazines, and music magazines. These magazines had huge circulations and huge pass-arounds or pass-downs, meaning one person would not read that magazine. It would sit in a studio or an office or someone's house, and 20 or 30 people would read that magazine. Another thing about that magazine is, I'm hitting the tripod. That magazine is a January 1986 issue, meaning, again, being a little bit of a journalist, January issues, the lead time for magazine is something on the order of 2 or 3 months, meaning that showed up on newsstands, I'm guessing October, November, just in time for the holiday season, when that's the meat and gravy time for music journalism and just about every industry. So that Robert Fripp cover was timed perfectly. Huge circulation, huge pass down, and I'm sorry to go over there. I'm sorry to go off camera for a second. I'm looking at my notes. So that magazine was seen by untold numbers of people across a wide demographic internationally. Meaning, what does that mean? So after that issue was published, that's when the big flood, that's when the gates opened to the general public. That announced sort of Guitarcraft was here. Okay? And so people like me would open this magazine and see these articles. There were other articles being published in other magazines about Robert, and that he's giving these courses in West Virginia. And the articles, just like most print on Guitarcraft, are good and bad. Print is a tough way. Squiggly lines of print is a tough way to convey what goes on at a Guitarcraft course, or just anything. That's why writing is so difficult. Good writing is so difficult and so rare. There is some existing publications about Guitarcraft that range from very good. Those are made by the people who are there. The people who are not there, this is what Robert calls equality of experience. This is one of those things where, boy, if you really did have to be there. You have to experience a Guitarcraft course to have any credibility to talk about a Guitarcraft course. If you haven't been on one, you don't know what one is. I've been on a dozen, and I don't know what one is. So there you go. So people like me started reading that, okay, Robert Fripp is giving these Guitarcraft courses. Okay, also, in 1986, Robert was putting out the 1980s trilogy of albums, and for guys like me who were into, Robert loathes the term progressive rock, but guys who gravitate towards progressive rock tended to gravitate towards King Crimson, to start the Venn diagrams going there. So I was listening. I was not a fan. I did not know. I did not know about Islands in the Wake of Poseidon. I'm not one of those guys who was grooving on King Crimson early on. I knew about the first album I bought was Three of a Perfect Pair, and I loved it. And then I discovered Discipline, and that album, like most albums, just made people's heads go, wow. More about that in another epoch. So that was the setting that was the vibe. That's where all of this rambling, incoherent stuff is going on that I'm talking about right now with these courses. So in some of these magazines, there was an address. It said, okay, if you would like to attend one of these Guitarcraft courses, here's what you do. And what you did was, you wrote a letter. Oh, it was 3 questions. It's always the 3 questions. It's who are you, something like where are you from, and what are your aims in attending a Guitarcraft course. 3 of the most damn nebulous questions. The third one, excuse me, ever. So I wrote I wish I had that letter. I wish I had that letter, because I'm sure it was horrible. I mean, ooh. You're when those letters when you're trying to impress someone or applying for something. As a teacher for many years, if I didn't mention that, I taught. Yeah, of course I have. Those letters are the worst. They are just the worst. Anyway, I sent off a letter to Charlestown, West Virginia, and there in the mail one day I get a return and oh God. I remember seeing this, and it says, Michael, you have there's a course in June, and if you would like to attend it, here's what to do. Write us back, let us know that you're attending. I think the courses then were something on the order of $600 to $800 for a course which was 7 or 8 days long, which was a lot of money. But when now looking back, now that I know a little bit about the cost structure and how much it took to put these courses on, that was dirt. That they were basically putting on these courses for their cost. I'm not sure Robert received. I don't know what he received. He put it this way, folks. That's another thing. People. Oh my God. The thing about people. Robert wanting to do things for money. Trust me, there were countless things Robert could be doing for money throughout his entire life that he has simply said no to. No. Instead of making money and doing all the flash and cool things that rock wanted him to do in 1985 and 1986, he decided instead to go to Charlestown, West Virginia, in the middle of nowhere, and live with a bunch of people he's never met before and see what happens when we get together in a room with guitars. I mean, that's really cool on one level, but he gave up. You read, he didn't tell us back then. It was a really tough time in his life. He was undergoing litigation with his label. He was just falling in love with his wife. That's not a tough time. It was an eventful tough time. He was being pulled in a lot of different directions. So him showing up on the porch, I remember just walking up, coming from the airport, as usual, being driven by someone he would just ask for a ride. Robert doesn't do limousines or even most of the time taxis. Usually he calls someone local, say, hey, could you give me a ride to Claymont? Thanks, I'd really appreciate it. So he would show up, and that's the vibe. That's so cool. Yeah, Robert looks like he's that. Yes, he can be up there, but he is so earthed and so grounded that it's disgusting. Those 10-month courses at Claymont, he's attended those. And these courses are not easy. Talking later about Claymont, again, this is Claymont Mansion at the time was undergoing repair, meaning there was water, but there was no heat, no air conditioning, no hot water. So it was Spartan. For a good reason, though. That was a real big plus, again, looking back, and we didn't know why. But again, you showed up at this course, having been accepted, and you show up at this mansion in the middle of nowhere that looks like that mansion at that time looked like that scene in Terra when I'll never go hungry again. I'll never go hungry again. I mean, that place looked like, I'm looking at this going, damn, I'm going to spend a week in this place with 30 other people, plus a kitchen team, which was mostly invisible at the time. Courses have evolved. Wow. This was a serious mind F, to use the parlance of modern times. So Guitarcraft was a lot of things. That was one of them. Part of that maybe shock to the system. All of these things were part of the course, whether we wanted them to be or not. But most of these things were a really cool way of nudging us away from our regular lives and towards this Guitarcraft. It's been described as a way of doing things. Is it a way of life? That's a broad term that I am not qualified to talk about. But Guitarcraft was definitely a way, and is a definite way of doing things. Period. Okay, what does that actually mean in real life? Meaning, a lot of aphorisms in these, Robert tends to say these things in these very compact aphorism type things. Demystifying them is what I'm going to do in some of these things. Meaning, when Robert says this, to guys like me, I see it as this. Meaning, like you'll see the things like silence and things like that anyway. Looking over at my notes. So we would show up at this disheveled mansion, 30 of us coming from all over the globe at this point because of the guitar craft. I'm sorry, because of the guitar player article that had been out. Now Guitar Craft was it was open for shop. So here we came. The numbers really increased then. Then the flood of courses began, and I was at one of the first ones. And we arrived, and it was wonderful. And I'm pausing here just for a moment. I don't want to edit this much, but let me see where I do have a few notes. I talked about discovering guitar craft, course structure. Okay, there we go. What was a guitar craft course structured like? Again, I was studying to become a teacher at the time, so this was interesting because it's not a school, it's not instruction, it's very, very, very open-ended. You're not told what to do a lot of the times. A lot of times we're just told, we're going to go in the room, there will be a large group meeting. And what would happen at that meeting? I think Robert might have had some ideas at what might go on at most of these meetings, but I think I don't think he didn't decide. Not to get too mystified, I have a feeling he would walk into the room, sat down in the circle, sat quietly as he did for a few seconds, and felt the vibe of the room, and something comes to him, and that's what I'll do in the circle. So we met at Guitar Craft, and how were the courses structured? We were 30 of us, I think it was 30 or 31 of us at the first course I attended, which was Guitar Craft 14 US. They had all been in the US at Claymont, I believe, at the time. So this was the 14th course. 22 to 28, I believe, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. 7 days, that sounds about right. 1986, so it was the summer. And the summers in West Virginia, yeah, it's warm and it's humid. So, and in a house again. So, but we were told about this. They said the conditions were comfortable, but not exactly. You weren't spending a day at a 4-star hotel, a week at a 4-star hotel. So Spartan conditions. How was the course structured? Well, you found out when we would all show up on a Sunday night and we would have dinner. This is how, let me backtrack. This is how the courses began at the first course and the subsequent few courses that I attended in the early days. You showed up, you were told that the course would begin at dinner on a Sunday evening, so people throughout the day and the afternoon were showing up and wandering around this place, mostly with that look of, this was not what I expected. Wonderful.